romance readers. I am Liz Donatelli. Welcome to Reader Seeks Romance, the #1 romance novel talk show on YouTube. I recently sat down with EDEN APPIAH-KUBI to discuss her debut novel, The Bennet Women, a retelling of Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice. EDEN also chatted about her decision to reimagine the Regency-era Bennet sisters as modern-day college students, and she selects the EDEN Award winners in several character categories. And EDEN played Would You Rather? Pride and Prejudice edition. Enjoy, and be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Hi, EDEN. Welcome to Reader Seeks Romance.
Hello, and it's a pleasure to be with you.
Congratulations on your debut novel, The Bennet Women, which is a reimagining of Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice.
Thank you. I'm beyond excited to be talking about a published novel by me.
Yes, and I'm super excited to have you on. I spent hours compiling questions, and then I had to cull it down because I have so many. Well, first off, The Bennet Women is very well done, so you should be very proud.
You.
And I'm sure Jane is proud as well. And I'm super impressed by your decision to debut your writing career with a modern retelling of one of the most popular romances of all time. Does that make you fearless? Would you say you're a fearless writer, ambitious, just a super fan, super Janeite, and you had to do it?
Well, I feel like the story finds you, and I would say I was compelled. So the story of this novel, if you don't mind a long story, goes back to the Bush era. I was just starting to take my writing seriously enough to join a critique group. And part of what we did in that critique group was the person who hosted, it was at each other's houses, the person who hosted provided lunch and got to choose a meal and got to choose a prompt. And so one day the prompt was rewrite a scene from classic fiction. And of course, my mind went straight to the proposal scene from Pride and Prejudice. And I wasn't too long removed from my college experience. So I was like, what is like an English village? like an almost Ivy College campus. It's small. You have wealthy people. You have not so wealthy people. You have all sorts of weird hierarchies and social, like social weird quirks. And so the scene poured out of me in that little half hour, and then I wrote more later. And the 3 pages I wrote for like fleshing out the scene was more interesting to my critique group than anything else I've been bringing in. They're like, do that. put away your YA thing. Do that. I was like, okay, critique group.
Wow.
So flash forward several years, go to Peace Corps, come back from Peace Corps. Coming back, and one of my good friends told me that she was starting a new critique group, and I needed a new hobby and new friends. So I was like, can I join? And the only story I had been kicking around, I tried to work on the YA when I was in Peace Corps, but I kept coming back to The Bennet Women. And so I didn't know what kind of story it was. I was like, I'm going to try and finish a novel. We'll see how that works out. And my very first versions, the story of publication is long, but that was the story that was in me to tell, and that's how it got and I'm just astonished that it actually got published. So The Bennet Woman is like you said, a spin on Pride and Prejudice that follows EJ, who's a Black engineering student in her final year at the illustrious Longbourn University. She's also an RA. And her best friend, Jamie, who's a recently out trans woman, as they navigate their senior year of college, or thinking beyond college, finally coming down from the Ivy Tower. But lo and behold, at the fall formal, Jamie strikes a real romance with the sweet junior year glow up having Lee. And to wing woman her bestie through this, EJ must tolerate the very annoying but very hot Will Pack, an Asian American C-list actor who is on campus for his own mysterious reasons. That is the quick, fast, and dirty version. But you follow Pride and Prejudice, that hijinks ensue, and we get to see the friends throughout the year.
There are definite parallels between characters in the Bennet sisters and Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice. However, your narrative includes present day updates that feature a wonderfully diverse cast of well-crafted characters. So, if you were to host the first ever Eden Awards, which of your characters would win in each category? Most fun to write.
That one's actually easy. It's Tessa. She's sort of the Charlotte Lucas stand-in, and she is a person who just lets everybody know, like when they're being dumb, when they're being serious, when they're being a little obtuse, and she wants things for herself too. And I wanted someone who's just very vocal and friendly but blunt. And I like every time it came to like sort of shaking someone out of their reality, I brought in Tessa.
Awesome. Most satisfying to write?
I have to say EJ, my main character. I'm very attached to her. She was the reason I kept going to write this book. I wanted my Black, dorky engineer front and center, and so the fact that she is as I imagined her on the page is huge to me. I got so many notes at the beginning about making her too nice, or like trying to make her a character with flaws and making her interesting. I think I actually did make that happen, and so that was sort of my own victory of really trying to make a complex character who was flawed in the way that I believed her to be flawed, and also who just her miscommunication, her beliefs, they're all credible to the person that she is throughout the book.
Most challenging to write?
I'd say Will. I wanted to write Will as a believable villain, if you will. Not villain, exactly, but you don't like in the beginning and you do by the end, I hope. But I want people, again, to see that on the page, not that just assume that he was good all along, but he actually also goes through his own journey of changing. And I think that's what I like, is that when people fall in love with each other, you can make each other better. And so I think that EJ and Will, through a process of trying to understand each other, become better people. Mm-hmm. And so I could see that journey more easily for EJ than I could for Will. And it took some doing, but I think I got there.
Yeah, no, you did. Absolutely. The most popular among readers?
Jamie, hands down.
Really?
Everybody loves Jamie. She gets a lot of top. We get to see some of the highlights for Amazon, from Amazon Publishing, and so her quotes get a lot of top highlights. And even back when I was drafting, people like Jamie, and so that's another struggle. I was like, well, this is EJ's story. I have to make sure EJ stays interesting. You know, Jane in the novel is very sweet and kind of a shrinking violet.
Yes.
And I was just sort of like, I can't have my trans girl be a shrinking violet. I just, it takes, like it's a lot of courage in general to live your truth. And also, it's not how I imagined her. My Jamie, I want to give a reason for her shyness that is not just a little bit of timidity, but like she's otherwise kind of sassy and funny. I don't know which one, because I just pulled it from the Peace Corps shelf, but we had this sort of lending library. I went through all the Sookie Stackhouse novels that were available at our Peace Corps library. So I think I read 6 or 7 of them in a not short period. I would just fill my backpack with as many as I could get at a time.
I'm fascinated that the Peace Corps had these books in their library. Do they take donations, or is there a librarian there who curates the selection?
So library is a term I use loosely. So I served in Malawi. We used to have a Peace Corps house, and it was just for volunteers. It's just where people stayed, and it was just like it was basically a hostel for volunteers, and people just left books. And so our library was volunteers who left books behind to sort of take one, leave one.
What did you do in Malawi?
I was in there for 2 years. That's the usual term. I helped this amazing small women's group. They're doing orphan care, elder care, and non-clinical home-based care on their own. They asked if I could help them build an under-5 shelter, which is just a brick building to have health examinations, particularly for children, during rainy season. So rainy season is 5 months out of the year, and roads become mud, essentially. So with the shelter, the health service assistant who has a bicycle could go to the village and service people there to make sure that kids were inoculated and their health was being maintained through raise season, which is also the time there's the least food available. I helped get the money for it through a grant application. I got the money and then I bought the supplies, and that was my role.
Eden, you're on a flight from San Francisco to New York. Your phone only has 45 minutes of power left, and you've lost your charger. Would you rather spend the last of your battery power watching the first 45 minutes of the 2005 Pride and Prejudice movie with Keira Knightley, or would you rather watch the last 45 minutes of the 1995 BBC miniseries Pride and Prejudice with Colin Firth?
That's tough because I prefer the 2005, but I prefer the last half of the 2005. So I think it's going to have to be the Colin Firth.
Okay, so the last 45 minutes of the BBC series.
Yeah.
Would you rather dump a tureen of white soup atop the head of Caroline Bingley or Mr. Collins?
Mr. Collins, because Caroline Bingley suffers enough. She doesn't get Darcy. She doesn't get anything she wants. Mr. Collins still gets to be married and have his patron, so
yeah,
he gets like the soup.
Okay. Would you rather seek romantic relationship advice from Charlotte Lucas or Jane Bennet?
Charlotte Lucas, because like my Tessa character, Charlotte Lucas will let you know, and she will let you know in good time. Because if they listened to her, Jane would have said something, and then all of this could have been.
That's right. That's right. I know. Would you rather dance a country dance with Charles Bingley or gamble at a gaming hell with George Wickham?
Oh, Bingley. One, I can't afford George Wickham's lifestyle. I mean, he'd be hanging out for cash halfway and telling he's good for it and then disappearing afterwards.
There's some days I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll take off with George Wickham and have a good time. And then others are like, I'll just hang out at the dance. Would you rather go to brunch with melodramatic Mrs. Bennet or the imperious Lady Catherine de Bourgh?
Oh, Mrs. Bennet, because Mrs. Bennet's gonna gossip.
But Lady Catherine de Bourgh would probably take you to a really fancy place and...
Yeah, but then she'd be judging how you cut your food.
True. Well, Eden, thank you so much for taking time to join me here on Reader Seeks Romance.
Thank you for having me. This was a blast.